Bacons. Over the years, you see, I have been tempted to judge. I already have judged. I actually have judged people by because of the way they acted, really. But lately, I'm coming to learn that, yeah, people people learn the way they act. People are shaped to act a certain way. And a lot of things happen that make people turn out the way they become. Love languages aside, temperament aside, personalities aside, fundamentally, how a child is raised, in the environment in which is raised, all of these things shape a person. And because we are talking to parents or talking about parents, I'm forced to believe, or I was forced to believe, that there may have been something in their upbringing that made them into who they are. Most of the times here in Nigeria, when you're talking to some parents, they tell you that because their parents flogged them, their parents yelled at them, they turned out okay. These days, I'm quick to remind them or point to the fact that we are not all okay. Unless, of course, you were raised by parents who were self aware, parents who, in themselves or by themselves, healed from childhood traumas, parents who recognized that there was something wrong with the way they were brought up. We are not okay. The way we yell, the way we speak to our children, our parenting styles, our calmness, our demeanor is affected or influenced by how we were raised ourselves. Today, Beacons, we'll be talking about the legacy of trauma, how childhood experiences influence parenthood, childhood trauma. What is trauma? I've been privy to, I've watched a lot of medical series, and I kind of like that trauma response unit, the way they bring in patients and then the rush and all the adrenaline pump. They're trying to make sure they resuscitate the patient and make sure that they do the needful so that the person will survive. You see, for that, in that scenario, that would probably be the traumatic experience. There would have been the accident, the physical one. When you talk about childhood trauma refers to deeply distressing and disturbing experiences during childhood that affects a child's ability to cope. Some of this could be physical, emotional, sexual. It could actually be neglect or witnessing a child witnessing violence or parental separation. Might I add now that a child having to maybe lose a sibling can also cause a huge trauma. What are the types of trauma? Trauma could either be acute, something big happened, a one-off thing that significantly impacted the child's life, or chronic, something that keeps repeating itself for a prolonged time. When a child witnesses, okay, probably the father or the mom beating or hitting, violating the father or the mom, either way, when a child witnesses his parent hitting, shouting at, yelling at the parent, the other parent, that can be a trauma exposure right there. A child is having to choose between which parent to stay with, having to hear parent one berate parent two because probably they are separated. That could be trauma right there. What causes trauma? We've talked about what childhood trauma is. We've talked about the types of trauma there are. What causes trauma? The first one is family issues. You have domestic violence, parental substance abuse, you have mental health issues, separation or divorce. Now, some divorces may actually be smooth, may not be a reason for concern, but a lot of them could be very, very messy. And then they leave the child or the children in the middle of it. When two elephants fight, of course, the grasses always suffer, right? The next one is socioeconomic factors. Homelessness, poverty, exposure to unsafe environments can be causes of trauma. Next one is loss and separation, loss of a parent or caregiver, loss of a sibling, loss of a loved one, or separation. The family has to split, probably because the father has to go work someplace else, the mom has to go someplace else, or there were some irreconcilable difference. Oh, that was such a mouthful. And then they have to split ways. That can be traumatic for a child. A child in this case being that child who grew up to become you, a parent. Abuse and neglect. The father or the mom who was meant to protect this child became the source of pain. You were too busy saving the world, making ends meet, traveling the world, that you probably not even healed enough yourself, that you emotionally or physically even neglect your children. That in itself is trauma right there. How does childhood trauma impact parents? You are now grown up, you're now a dad or a mom yourself, and then voila, the issues of your past now come and they start biting you in your behind. The first one is attachment challenges. You see, you're finding it difficult to emotionally attach to your children. Yeah, you love them a lot, but you just cannot bring yourself to connecting with them. They want to play with you, they want to compliment your look, but you're fighting them off, pushing them away, and building high walls. You're hiding behind the safety of those walls because you have attachment challenges. You cannot build a secure attachment because you did not have one yourself. You can never give what you do not have. We say that all the time, right? This has a huge impact on the child because it will affect their sense of safety or self-worth. Is my father not connecting with me because of me? Is it because I'm too tall or too short or too fat or too slim? Is it because I'm not worthy enough? They start to question themselves because they feel like it is about them, not knowing that you are dealing with your own issues. The next one will be emotional regulation difficulties. You cannot manage your stress, your anxiety, or your anger very well because you saw a model to you firsthand. That when a child makes a mistake, you yell at them, you hit them, you berate them, you shame them, right? So you are now doing it to your child too because you've not healed from that trauma. You do not understand that punishment is a decision you make, right? It is not that that is the only thing there is or the only way there is to correct bad behavior. So because it was done to you, you are now doing it to your children. Broken people do what? They break people. Hurt people go about hurting others. Now you're unable to control or regulate your emotions because you were not taught how to, because nobody modeled theirs around you, right? Next is communication barriers. How can connection be possible if vulnerability is not an option? You cannot bring yourself to communicate appropriately with your children because you cannot be vulnerable to them because there's no connection on the first place. You're unable to connect with them, so communication is very difficult. You cannot come and ask me very private issues when we do not have a relationship. You cannot demand for me to tell you what's going on in my private life just because you're my dad or my mom. If we had a relationship, a very functional one, I will now probably be able to share with you to the extent to which I deem necessary, and then you'll be able to guide me appropriately. So because this child that now became a parent did not share a connection, a secure connection with his or her parents, she's unable to do so, he or she's unable to do so with their children now. So communication becomes a problem. The next one is parenting styles. You choose to be permissive, authoritarian, authoritative, or helicopter in parenting because of the way you were parented yourself, right? You do not want to be too lenient, so you become too strict. You do not want to just give in to everything that they ask, so you don't give at all. You are now transferring the effects of your parenting to your children. Now, I haven't talked about what the effect or influence of childhood trauma is on the parent. How do these traumas affect their parenting practices? Now, we've talked about you as a parent. How does it affect your parenting. The first one is hypervigilance or overprotection. You see that parents become overprotective because they do not want their children to go through what they went through. You are now raising your children in a bubble. You're trying to protect them from things that would have built resilience in them, that would have made them dogged and determined, because you do not want them exposed to the trauma you were exposed to. This limits their ability to explore, to be self-dependent or self-motivated or self-driven. They are constantly looking behind their backs and waiting for you to tell them the next course of action. They are unable to think for themselves because they believe that whatever they think up may not fly with you. So they are waiting for you to tell them the very next thing to do. So because you were neglected as a child, you are constantly worried about your child's safety. You are constantly making decisions that actually mar your ability to grow, because you don't want, oh God, I don't want to go to work, and then probably I'm too busy, or the meeting lingers till late and I'm unable to pick my children. They will feel neglected. Now you're overcompensating because you did not get the safety or security of protection from your children. You now feel like you need to overdo it, and then that becomes a problem in itself. The next one is difficulty setting boundaries. You are a parent or you've become a parent does not mean that inner child in you is not still there, right? When you've gone through childhood trauma, it affects your self of self. When you've gone through childhood trauma, it affects your sense of self. Your own self-worth is in question, right? And because of that, it now becomes very difficult for you to set boundaries, right? You don't feel like you are qualified enough to tell them, oh, don't do this, to enforce boundaries. Everything just goes because you are not confident in your competence as a parent, right? You did not outgrow should I say outgrow? You did not heal from all of the baggage. And now that you're here, you're constantly questioning yourself, and then it's affecting how you're able to make decisions. You become either too permissive or too strict. You are allowing everything go, or you are just all or nothing kind of parenting, It's either my way or the highway. Do you understand? So when you have not healed from your trauma, setting boundaries can be a problem. Next one is emotional reactivity and withdrawal. You are either very reactive or you are more withdrawn. Instead of pausing to respond, like a quick trigger. You do not really have the ability, of course, to self-regulate. So you are not able to go through the emotions. You are always in a flight mode. Okay, can I do this? How dare you do it? Why should it? What is it? It is not usually about the child. It's more about you first, We always talk about it. When it comes to parenting, it is first about you. It is more about you as a parent. Because now that you are reacting instead of responding, now that you have gone into that defense mode, you are now teaching to your children that when they are faced with confrontations, instead of pausing to respond, they should react or totally withdraw. You know what? I'm not even having this right now. You shut it down, probably by yelling at the child, and then you run to hide, because that's a gray area for you, a soft spot right there for you. All right. You snap at things that you ordinarily shouldn't, right? Things that should, is it this little thing that mommy is just shouting about like this? What did I even do? All I asked was, can I take maybe shawarma for breakfast? That's not enough now. You are constantly giving too much when it's supposed to be very regulated. Next one is you are modeling negative behavior. The next one is you are modeling negative coping mechanisms. When you are faced with difficulties, you either go and maybe comfort eat, or you are abusing substances, or you just shut down or shut out. Monkey sees, monkey does. Your children will have tough moments too. And it's the way they've seen you handle your challenges they'll borrow a leaf from, right? You're constantly learning from you. Remember, I've said it already that you are your child's first teacher. They definitely learn first from you. Your home is the first classroom. So they're learning from you as their guiding light that when I'm faced with challenges, I should cope in ABCD way instead of actually modeling the right ways to them. No self-care, nothing, no emotional calmness, no emotional mastery, lack of it. The final one will be difficulty with trust and intimacy. There are cases of parents who do not even connect fully on an emotional level because they are afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of being hurt again, afraid of going through a fresh kind of trauma with this new person. Your spouse that you're supposed to trust, that you're supposed to even be able to trust with your life, you're afraid of connecting with on a deep emotional level because you're afraid of getting hurt. Apart from your own spouse, you're afraid of also being I don't want to say, okay, let me say it because I know that I'm talking to Bacons here, not people that their minds can take things out. You're afraid of being intimate with your children. I say intimacy, please don't take it the wrong way. Don't remove it from this context and say intimate with your children, having conversations, sharing moments, right? That's what I mean. Please don't remove it from this context. Thank you very much. So you are not able to be there for them. You are constantly emotionally distant because you're trying to save yourself. Self-preservation. You're trying to protect yourself from what really? From trauma repeating itself, right? Because you have learned to hide. You have learned to remain in an emotional limbo because that's what self-preservation is for you. That's what it means for you because it helps you feel safe. It helps that child in you feel soothed or comforted. But hey, Beacon, don't you think the time to drop all of that has come? Don't you think it's time for you to heal from all of that hurt and allow yourself to be loved and allow yourself to love your children and connect with them? Don't you think that all of these burdens have taken too much from you already? Must they continue to now take a lot from you again? Must they now be a part of your legacy? Childhood trauma is real, whether you want to admit it or not. Your admittance of it will help you now put strategies in place to make sure that you're not bequeathing them to your children unconsciously. It's just like the laws of nature, whether you admit they are there or not, does not affect them. Should you admit, you begin to swim with the tide instead of against it. Look in the mirror. Look at yourself very closely. Why do you yell? Why are you constantly hanging out with people who you know are not good for you? Why are you constantly having money problems? Why are you always seeking validation or approval? Why do you seek out people who have the same trauma as you do? There are a lot of pointers to the fact that you are still moving on with childhood trauma you have not healed from. This video is a call for you to pause and introspect. Look inwards, take a mirror and be a self-surgeon. Guard yourself if you must. Because until you admit, accept, and deal with these traumas, you would keep living with them and unknowingly passing them on as a legacy to your children. God forbid. I don't believe that. God forbid is not a parenting strategy. You must now ask yourself, where do I begin from? How do I go from here? How will I get healed so that I can parent from a place of wholeness, from a place of well-being, from a place of wholesomeness, and raise children who are loved, who are well, who are whole, and who are wholesome themselves. You see, we don't always leave you with challenges, right? We are not here to define them and tell you what they mean and then leave you there. We are here to give you strategies. We are here to offer direction and guidance, walk you through every step of the way. Only if you let us. Are you learning so far? Is there a parent you are seeing signs of trauma in that you need to learn, that you need to share this video with? Have you done that already? you're keeping us as your best kept secret. It's not serving the world, right? Yes, the world is the way it is. How can you make an impact? By sharing this video, you would have helped that family go from all that hurt from the past to starting the journey, beginning the journey of healing. So please click on the share button, like this video, and comment. Who knows? Your comment may be the deliverance somebody needs. And then, should you need clarity, please drop it in the comments too. Now, let us go on to the strategies to prevent the cycle of trauma. It's not just enough for you to heal. We must now make sure we prevent it so that it won't be a legacy of trauma, right? You won't bequeath it to the next generation. Remember, we are not just excellence driven, we are legacy conscious too, right? Let's dive right in. The first one is self-awareness and healing. Man, know thyself until thyself be true. Was that Aristotle? You must begin to tell yourself the truth. You can't keep running away from it. You can't keep denying the fact that you are not okay. I'm not saying this to demean you or to make you feel bad. I'm saying it so that you can sit down and think about it. When you become self-aware, you're seeing the negative cycles, you're seeing the traumas, you're seeing the pattern, the repetition and pattern. Oh my God, I actually am yelling like my dad. Oh my God, I'm becoming a womanizer, just like my father. I told myself I would never be that person. That you said so does not mean that you're to automatically be so. You must unlearn. You must unprogram yourself from the scripts that they built you with so that you can do better. You must now seek out learning measures or means. Like I always say, if you go to a doctor for your body, you should be open to going to a doctor for your mind. See a therapist, a cognitive behavioral therapist, or a psychiatrist if the need arises, because you're not doing this for yourself anymore. You are doing this for the children you are raising. You are doing it because you are a legacy conscious parent, and because calmness, healing is generational wealth too. It's not just money or finances. The next one is practice self-regulation. Nobody was born with the knowledge that they have. It comes from continuous practice. You try today, you fail at it, you start again tomorrow, and you keep building that muscle until it gets better. Mistakes are proof that you are trying. Should you snap again, I'm sorry, I yelled. I'm sorry I snapped. I'm sorry I lost it. I am a work in progress. I have never been a parent before. This is me learning on the job. Can you hold me accountable? Next time I am getting to this point where I yell, can we have a safe word so that when you mention that word, I'll know that I am getting off the limits, and then I'll calm down. When these children hold you accountable and they draw your attention to it, don't get defensive, because you've admitted that you needed help, right? You've admitted that you need help, rather. You must be open to getting helped. So while therapy is going on, while healing is going on, they will now hold you accountable. You're yelling again. Oh, I'm sorry. Take time out. Discipline is never an emergency. And reframing would also make you see things differently. Oh, the home is messed up. There used to be a time when I'm coming, okay, maybe I went out and I'm coming in, everywhere is a beautiful mess. All the throw pillows are down, there are cups and stuff in the sitting room. Oh my God, I just want to yell the roofs down. I had to ask myself, what really is the problem here? The place is messy, right? Yes, I would have wanted it better, right? Of course. But what if I had no kids and the place was okay? Everywhere was, I made my throw pillows in 3 weeks, how I left them. Would that bring me the joy that they bring me now? Now, everything in life would always have a polar opposite. If we only focus on the good parts and not acknowledge the negatives they come on with, would always have challenges. So I had to consciously learn. When I'm coming back and the place is a mess, oh, they are shouting and all, I drop my bag or my purse and then I dance or maybe play with them, and then they now see that, okay, I'm not coming to them with correction from a place of judgment. Oh, babies, this place is so messy. You must have had so much fun. How about we make this place a bit more tidy, then we continue to have the fun. That way you not trip on the pillows or sleep on the water if there's water. But most of the times, there's usually no water on the floor because even the littlest knows that once she spills water, she's meant to grab a towel and clean it. Reframing what used to piss me off before was now a mark that they are having fun, a point of connection. You see, it was a lot of work for me to get from that point to this one, and I believe that you too can do it. All right, the house will be very clean someday. Everything will be the way you have left them because they will grow up, and I bet that you will miss all the times where they would mess up, right? You would even crave it because grandparents are very, very lenient with their grandchildren. When you become a grandma yourself or a grandpa, you would want all of that mess again because wouldn't you? What would you rather have? A quiet home with no children where everything is prima proper, or a home filled with love and laughter? Because your house is a home meant to be lived in, not a showpiece for the gram. Having said that, talk about self-regulation. Mindfulness will help. Breathing exercises will help. Reframing will help. And timeouts, because disciplining is not an emergency. Go and calm down first. You don't have to yell now. You don't have to correct them now. Go and calm down. And then take it from a place of calmness. The third one is consistent and open communication. Yes, healing is taking place or has taken place. You must open up all channels. Communication could be verbal, written, or silence. Yeah. Sometimes when children want to talk, they just need you to listen. They're not trying to say, maybe get a clap back. Oh, you should have done this, or a lecture. You should have done it like this. Next time, yeah, just shut up and listen. Allow them rant. Allow them a safe place to blah, 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 and blab on. Because when the time comes, when there are now big stuff or stuff to fill those empty blabs and long banters, guess what? Because you have listened to them when whatever they had to say did not make sense, they will feel safe enough to come back to you to tell you when things are going on. There are parents who snub because you do not have the connection with your children because you're desperate to know what's going on in their lives. You go about snooping, you're checking their messages, you're checking their stuff just to know what is going on. How about saving yourself all the hassle, all the stress, and building a relationship with them so that you can actually ask, hey, Junior or Derek, how did your date go today? Are there any challenges you want to talk about? And then you could actually feel it intuitively. Oh, my child is not doing well because of that secure connection that people have. You can intuitively feel it that, okay, something is off. And then you can bring it up because you now know them enough. You know their love languages, you know the way they prefer to be corrected or communicated with. You'll be able to converse with them better. So we're talking about knowing your child and building a relationship. It will not just serve you when they are young. It will serve you all their lives. The next one is building secure attachment. Be responsive, be empathetic, and be reliable, right? Be a dependable parent. When you say something that you're going to do, make sure that 9 out of 10 times you do it. Don't make promises you're not ready to keep. Don't make it a habit of constantly, consistently breaking your promises to them. Oh, we're going to play tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, there's an excuse. A time will come when you say something, Daddy is always saying he will do this and he never does. That's trust thrown out of the window right there. So make it a habit of keeping your promises against all odds. Be dependable, be reliable, be empathetic, and be responsive. Let them know that you are there for them no matter what. All right. That would help them trust you more. That would help them believe that you're always there and would help build a secure attachment. Finally, positive discipline and boundaries. Establish clear boundaries. Know that discipline is not punishment. Always think about how to change that misbehavior to the right behavior next time. Punitive measures, we get your children to shut down, we get them feeling bad, we get them feeling inadequate or not enough, and that is not what you're looking for. Reward good behavior, whatever you want to see more of, reward, recognize, commend, and reward so that they will be incentivized to keep doing it until it becomes a habit, a part of them. Whatever you reward gets repeated. All right. So don't be quick to maybe spank or yell. Calm down and think, can I make this a teachable moment, a moment to teach them, a moment to love upon them and dose on them and tell them that, hey, I understand that you did this. You are who you are, and your action is definitely not you. So when a child fails, deal with the event, deal with the episode, not with them. Because when you learn to separate them from their actions, they are able to believe in themselves more and recognize that their actions were what was wrong or what were wrong, and then corrects the actions without it impacting on their self-worth, sense of self, and then their identity. Because that you were handed the wrong scripts does not mean that you should start handing them to your children right now. Yes, you were not raised right. Yes, you had issues when you were growing up. Yes, my parents would have, they did not love me, they did not take care of me. All of that, all of those excuses served you. Right now, it's time to be a parent yourself. You can re-parent yourself. The love you were not given as a child or shown, show it to yourself. The gifts you could not get when you were a child, now you are a parent. Start with you. You are your own first child. Reparent yourself and start to nurture your children. Now that your parents did not do it does not mean that there are no other parents that you can start learning from today. All right. Your job is to shine the light brightly that all others may see and bring glory to God. Your light should start shining from your own self so that it can reflect, can be a mirror your children will look at, right? If you right now look at yourself and you are saying, I don't want my child to turn out like me or to behave like me, something is wrong. We're not doing this to judge you. We're doing it so that you'd be aware, your journey of self-awareness can begin so that you can admit and then begin to go through the processes of healing. You owe this to your lineage. You owe this to your generation. Let the cycle, the legacy of trauma end with you. Let yourself be the beginning of wholesomeness, of wellness, and of calmness. I hope you've learned something from this episode today. If you have, I hope you have shared. I hope you commented. I hope you liked it. Thank you so much for always spending time with us. We appreciate you. We believe in you. And until we meet again in yet another insightful episode of the Laurie Brand podcast, stay excellent.